China. Uh, I call it the I Spy balloon, was shot down Saturday off the coast of South Carolina after it traveled from Alaska through Montana all the way into South Carolina, and it was shot down off the coast of South Carolina on Saturday. But it started in Alaska beginning of last week. So a total of 5 days, a Chinese balloon entered our airspace with some type of surveillance, and it was finally shot down. And China is saying, hey, why would you shoot down? This is for civilian surveillance. Why did you shoot it down? They were upset. What is going on? Because
Well, it wasn't just one balloon. It's several. Canada had at least two that were hovering for a long time.
Oh, yes,
This
in
was,
South America and Latin America as well.
yeah, and one of them balloons hovered over Montana for quite a while. So Biden says, on advice of his advisors, he didn't have it shot down because he didn't want to endanger anyone on the ground. Well, really? Or is this just another one of these things that some people are saying is part of the problem we are having? Because what is his nickname? Beijing Biden. He was told to back off and then given permission. You may shoot it down now. And as the Chinese are saying on their website, we're not going to destroy the United States. We are too heavily invested there. And if you look at who's peeping out from the shadows in the economic sphere, it seems the People's Republic of China is controlling the various currencies of the world and keeping them stabilized, and also keeping the stock exchanges of the world, including Wall Street, stabilized. How? Because they are a sovereign investor that controls billions of dollars, and they can buy up any blocks of stock they want. So they've been doing that as a government, and it makes them money. And when our side gets to suffering from a lack of vigilance and oversight over the process, and it starts getting out of hand, and you get things like this depression and inflation uh, going on, they say, that's enough. You've gone far enough. Here's what you're going to do to correct it, because we don't want to see a worldwide depression or
And
recession. Now, what are they doing with these balloons? Well, we switched to Dopplers. So while these balloons are hovering at 100,000 feet, what happens is they pick up all of these signals. The Chinese have better computers than we do. And in fact, if you look at your cell phones, iPhones, Androids, everything else, you'll find basically they're made in the People's Republic of China. And the next time you order your next iPhone, a new model, and ask for tracking, you will see it probably stops in the People's Republic twice before it leaves mainland China and gets shipped to you. That being the case, they are very much on technology. So they study the Doppler frequencies, modulation, and such like of our communications. They've already hacked into the F 35 aircraft fleet about 11 to 12 years ago, and they claim they erased everything, and it was just one of the citizens who did it. But they had the capacity to ground any one aircraft, disable any one aircraft, or the whole group of them at any time they chose. And I imagine what they're doing is keeping up on that ability so they can effectively control certain aspects of our military deterrent. It's inexcusable that that has been allowed to become the case. So you can shoot it down now. We already have the information we need. We have plenty of these. They're disposable like your drones. It looks like that position may have some validity, because look at it this way. You have something hovering over wide Montana. So what do? You shoot it down with a missile. Well, most of the missile tests are over water, but they used to blow up nukes in Nevada quite frequently. Vegas used to be known not for its gambling, but because it was known as Atomic Town. People used to flock to see the nuclear explosions, and we're not talking about anything nuclear. We're talking about a fairly straightforward anti-air exhibition. So,
Listen,
wait a minute, wait,
oh.
one other thing. Montana is where the B-2 Spirit bombers are located that fly the 32-hour missions to the Middle East that oversee the nuclear umbrella for the United States. The U.S. Navy has its ultra long frequency radio transmitters there that communicate with our nuclear ballistic missile submarines, and the silos for the ICBM intercontinental ballistic missile arsenal are all basically located in Montana. So you have B-1 bomber bone beds, they call them, bases. So you have what used to be SAC, which is now part of this Air Force strike component. Most all of that is located in Montana, and that's where the first one was hovering. So you'll have to wonder, what are they doing? And from 100,000 feet, you can read somebody's newspaper with modern technologies who's standing on the ground.
Right. What are they doing? And maybe they're canvassing. And hi, Adam, you can unmute. Maybe they're saying, listen, we need to see when we do take over America where we going to put things and where things at. So maybe they're just surveillancing.
Well, they don't need to see, they don't need to take over America. They just need to keep us as their surrogates, like I'm talking about the Black Caucus being surrogates for somebody else besides us.
Right.
Now, the other point is, hey, you're going to give yourself over to us now. We just had a campaign started 2 years ago in January. Literally, when you translate the Mandarin Chinese, it says the Man Up campaign of the People's Republic of China. So that's what they're doing, and look what we're doing.
I want to bring Adam in. Go ahead, Adam.
Hey, thanks for having me up here. judgejoebrown, definitely an honor, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, definitely a big fan. Watch you most recently on Kwame Brown's stream, maybe like a few months back. But definitely enjoy the way you talk about things, and you give it straight to people. Definitely. But my question in regards to what you were speaking about earlier, the special interests, these we got these politicians. They should have like NASCAR and like drivers have their endorsements on their outfit. We've all seen that meme. Just knowing who they are and who they're bought by, pretty much, and which direction they're gonna go. What's like, I think personally lobbying should be outlawed. I don't know how the heck we'd go about that. That that would be them drawing up laws against themselves, getting money from special interests, which is hard to fathom them doing. But that, and then these super PACs, these PACs I just saw, like what the super PAC when they were bringing up the Speaker of the House McCarthy and his PAC, and then all the Republicans were beholden to the PAC, and because of the PAC wanted McCarthy, that was it. They all had to uniformly do it. I was so happy to see them hold out for 10 days just to get some concessions out of them, some promises, and that was a beautiful thing. While everyone's complaining, oh my God, this is such a circus, I was loving it because I got to see Congress at work after watching them not work, for so long. It was, these guys handed over their checks and balances, that they threw checks and balances off with the Patriot Act, back in 2000, they handed all that their power to the executive branch, where the legislative branch is supposed to act on behalf of the people and the will of the people in the instance of a declaration of war. Now it's willy-nilly. The president's kind of like a dictator, and we don't have the check and balance. He could call for a war at a drop of a dime. And I just kind of find that I want, us to restore this republic to pre 2000, where before we gave away. Essentially, what I see is like it's like the terrorists won, man. The terrorists from 2000 won. They ruined America. The freedoms, the rights, and the liberties were taken away. They just handed them away, pretty much. And it's it's like how do we fix this as far as these special interests and lobbyists first and foremost?
Well, lobbying is kind of hard to get rid of because what does it say in the First Amendment? The right to petition the government for redress of grievance, etc., shall not be abridged. Lobbyists are technically only citizen groups who are petitioning the government. So in order to get rid of them, you have to dodge around that. And that may not be what we want because we don't want to further abridge the First Amendment by accident. But there need to be controls, and there's nothing wrong with open exposure that needs to be published so that people see, okay, look what we're really getting. Now, some of the lobbyists are actually lobbying to get what you want put in place so there is less control of our representatives by special interest groups, financial backers, and others who do not have much interest in the larger well-being of the population. So we have these trade-offs that we have to keep in mind. But that's one of the things that needs to be dealt with. I think open publication, is a matter of record of every representative's contributors should be there. It has to be submitted to the various entities that assemble such records. That's part of the election laws of the country in most states, but it's not really published. It's something that people have to seek and request. Perhaps we need to make it a rule that if you are elected to office, your campaign contributors are regularly posted by law in all major publications. That might be something. So we understand what we are getting.
Fully understandable. Just one more thing I was gonna say. I see the Liberty Caucus and the Republican Party. I like what they're about. I'm a person that's I went from in 2000. I was in my early 20s. Let's say I was born in 1980, so I was 20 years old. We had George Bush Jr. Not a fan. I knew before he got into office that we were somehow, some way going to end up in Iraq. And lo and behold, we did. We spent a few weeks in Afghanistan looking for bin Laden for a few weeks. And then we forgot about him and went straight to Iraq to continue daddy's little war over there, his beef. But, after losing so many American lives and Iraqi lives over there, and to find out it was all BS and, metal tubes, that were weapons of mass destruction, which turned out to be BS. At that point, I'm not a voter. I can't vote. I'm an immigrant, been here since '84, dealing with the immigration system. I'm legally, capital L, legally here and have been, but I got a judge's order withholding my removal because I faced deportation in 2011. But either which way, let me get back to the story here.
Wait, can I comment on that with you and your immigration status?
Sure,
because you know the problem I have is, yes, our immigration policies here, they're so backed up. You have people who have green cards or temporary residencies who've been here for over 10 years, paying their taxes, working hard. And I'm sorry, people who just came over that wall yesterday, being treated, getting a red carpet rolled out for them.
They're making it worse for regular immigrants.
Right. And so it seemed like it seemed like this administration is letting them skip the line to let them be here without being deported, to where you have people right now on the books waiting who've done it the proper way, the legal way, and waiting to be processed through so they could be a citizen. I have a big problem with that. So
yeah, there's a big backup in the immigration system right now. Like I apply for employment authorization every year. I have to go through this. I got to go check in with the good men and women of ICE every year. God bless them. I had no beef against them. They're just men and women doing their jobs, nothing but respectable when they picked me up to try to deport me. And that was during Obama era. But it was just a big mix up with my life. It's a long story. My lawyer, my parents' lawyer, applied for them but didn't apply for me. We didn't find out. I came over on a B2 visa, and basically he applied for them but didn't apply for me. And come to find out, when I was 16 in high school, that I had no status at that point. So they applied for me under family unity. And 21, I got, I'm out of high school at that point. I've been going, I've lived here since I was 4, never left the country. And, basically at age of 21, my dad passed away. He was my petitioner. He died of an aortic dissection. God rest his soul. And, a month later, he got his citizenship paperwork to go swear his oath. I would have been I would have automatically been naturalized had he been alive, an extra month, and I would have got my citizenship right then back in when I was 21. But I lost him, and I hung out with some people that weren't savory people, and that I got some charges like less than 20 grams of marijuana, possession charges, and I took them as it was explained to me in a court of law. Withheld adjudication means no judgment made. You're not innocent, you're not guilty, neither nor. And I had like 3 of those, and they were all like less than a gram of marijuana. 3 of them.
But that goes against your application process.
And that's when I went, I had to reapply all over again under my mother's name as my petitioner. And then when I went for my green card interview, they brought those withheld adjudication charges up against me, and they said it was moral turpitude. And on the federal,
but then you have a whole bunch of criminals.
But those aren't convictions. Those aren't convictions, though. Those weren't convictions. I did not, plead guilty. Those are withheld adjudication. But they didn't explain to me in court that on the federal level that it is considered a conviction, and that's what they told me on the green card.
Hold on one second. There's some Supreme Court decisions that relate to that. I'm not giving you legal advice, but have your lawyer check your state statutes. When you have these deferred prosecutions, I know the state of Tennessee has one that says if you successfully complete the program, your record can be expunged, and this is the part. You may deny in the future that you've ever been arrested or convicted for the charges involved, even to the extent that if asked, you may deny under oath without penalties of perjury. Now, you may have something like that. And about 3 or 4 years ago, I cannot remember the name of the case, the U.S. Supreme Court, following up on some lower court decisions, said that when someone went through a program like that, that could not be used against them. Now, very few people in the system are aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
So have your lawyer or lawyers look into that. In a lot of places, it's called the diversion program or deferment prosecution. And
Deferment.
technically, what happens is that your situation is withheld, and then before final disposition, if you successfully complete the program, it's dismissed. So you have a thing going that you can put to the review board of there is a presumption of innocence that still remains, and that you have not been yet convicted because the prosecution was dismissed. Now, that's the general line. I'm not giving you legal advice, but
Gotcha.
suggest that to your lawyers. All right.
Yeah, they definitely did do something where the because you know, in a court case, you have to know the outcome, right? Correct. Like there has to
Yeah.
be a definitive outcome.
And
And
I want to give you one other thing. Hold
yes.
your point before I forget it.
Sure, go for it.
Under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, it's a 1970 U.S. Supreme Court case that says it is inappropriate to consider mere arrest for any purpose because they can only consider convictions. And it said there's a certain class of people in the country that cannot be expected statistically to reach 25 years of age without having been arrested for no cause at least one time. So the ruling is that on employment applications, qualification applications, absent the demonstration of special circumstances, mere arrest without an ensuing or following conviction cannot be considered. So you might want to have your lawyers look into that. I almost forgot that. But again, it's not legal advice. It's just advisement on the state of the law.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
If you, I want to go
Now,
to Miss
one thing
Angela.
I also wanted to touch on was this. Why is it that we are bringing in this big group and we don't care where they came from, what the circumstances are, don't look into anything? It's Article 1 of the Constitution. It says, for purposes of apportioning representation in the House of Representatives, every 10 years a census shall be conducted. And based on the results of that census, representation in the U.S. House shall be determined, etc., etc. I have participated in 5 census takings as an adult. And this is the first time, this last one they had, that I have never been asked my citizenship status, nor the citizenship status of my parents. Why? Here's why. If you get people counted, irrespective of their citizenship status, they tend to be most likely located in, say, states like California, which means for purposes of representation in the U.S. House of Representatives, California won't lose congressmen. They will pick them up. And the beautiful thing about it, as far as this group is concerned, is they won't be able to vote. So we will pick up extra representatives that do not have to represent the people who are being counted. You see this also in Article 1 of the Constitution. And this is something people don't quite understand. It says, for purposes of this apportionment, 3/5 of all persons held in slavery or involuntary servitude shall be counted toward that number. So you would be having the modern equivalent. In other words, a large number of illegals would be counted toward the apportionment of congressmen from, say, California or New York, let's say. And these people would not be able to vote no more than the involuntary slaves and, well, the slaves and involuntary servants, which basically were indentured servants. Now, that being the case, we see a sneak attack on the Constitution and the way things are run, where people who can't vote will be counted toward adding extra representatives to the House, so a certain predictable outcome will be more likely to result. That's
Mhm.
not good.
Right. Yeah. So it's like they're not citizens, they can't vote, but they're still, their bodies are here to be counted for.
Yeah. And before that, based on the citizenship status, you were either counted or not counted. And the count went toward how many congressmen does the state of California or New York or Texas or Illinois get? You
Right.
see. So now, since there's no designation, it's just everybody's lumped in, and California, New York, and Illinois are arguing, well, we don't need to lose any congressmen. We need to pick one up.
Right. I want to go to Angela. Adam stayed here. Anybody else want to request to come up? Please do so now. Miss Angela.
Thank you, Dana. Thanks for holding the space, and thanks for allowing me to speak.
Yeah.
And hi, Judge Joe Brown. I really appreciate
How
talking
are
to
you?
you. Oh my God, I got to meet you. My grandmother used to make me sit down and watch you all the time. But I did want to ask you a question, and I did want to say something to Adam. Adam, I'm not giving legal advice either, but in Ohio we have a program, because I work with a lot of people that have went through drug programs and this trying to live through sobriety houses. I'm trying to open sobriety houses here in Ohio, but it's something called a treatment in lieu of conviction. So the arrest will still show, but you won't be convicted of it. So yeah, I would ask my lawyers to look in that, and that's what we have here. It's called a treatment. If you do the treatment and complete it successfully, it's in lieu of conviction, so it doesn't show up as a conviction on your record. And then also, Judge Brown, I want to ask you a question. My cousin here is running in Akron, Ohio. Where we had the killing of Jalen Walker just last summer. And a lot of our activists here have pushed to have our mayor step down, in which he did. So we have a lot of African Americans running on a vote on a ballot to be voted for mayor in our city. Well, my cousin is the only woman running, the only black woman running. And if she does win, she'll be making history. She'll be the first black woman mayor in Akron, Ohio. This is the thing, though. They moved the election up to May. And I wanted to ask, is that something that they normally do, or are they playing trick bags because they really don't want a woman in office? Because I was going to ask you when was your election, so I could start supporting you, and like if you have some volunteers to make phone calls and stuff for you, because I'm her volunteer coordinator. And so that's what I do, coordinate people to make the phone bank calls, knock on doors, and basically campaigning for her on Twitter and stuff like that. So when is your guys' election?
Our election is in October this year. You can go to jjb2023.com and they'll give you an opportunity to participate. So it will be a mecca for people to come to. We will be welcoming new immigrants into the Memphis area. You just have to be legal. This will not be a sanctuary city. But that said, jjb2023.com. Now, to your general question, I don't know because I'm not privy to your local election laws or to the applicable laws in your state at this point in time. I have not checked, and I'm not going to go talking off the top of my head because I don't do that. All right. Now, good luck on that. Maybe she will get herself in. We don't know. Let's see. Is this her first run?
Yeah, she's been a councilwoman for the past 9 years. She's been on council for 9 years, and she's got a really, really good chance. I hate to say it, but we don't come out and vote in numbers like that. We're 200,000 people, but we campaigning for her hard though. I mean, we've been out here, so she's got a really, really good chance. This is against her and another guy named Marco Somerville. He owns a funeral home here, and he's been in the community for some years, so that's really, really her only competition. It's really a Democratic state. We only have 3 other Republicans on the ballot, but Ohio usually doesn't vote Republican at all, so we're not too much worried about him. Just, Marco's been around, but she's a councilwoman and she's did a lot of work for our community, so she has a lot of people behind her pushing her. I'm certain she'll win because her opponent, he doesn't really give back to the community, and she really is down here, boots on the ground, non-judgmental. You can talk to her about anything if you have a situation, and talk to her about it. She passed legislation for, she supported the legislation to have dash cams put in the police cars. She pushed the Crown Act for us to have that here in Ohio. So she's really done a lot of legislation, and she's done a lot of things to help our community. So she's really got a good chance of winning. It was just really odd for me that they pushed the election all the way up to May to try to have us rushing, you know what I mean? But it's not going to hurt nothing. It just makes us work that harder. But it was just weird for me because I know elections are usually in October and November, and for them to push it all the way up to May, it was just kind of funny to me. That's all. I just thought it was unusual.
Well,
I just wanted to ask about that.
Huh? Good luck on that. And interestingly enough, I won't get into the details, but in Memphis, from a number of decades ago, when some things that were questionable, we cannot have a partisan election for councilman or mayor. They have to be nonpartisan. There's no party primary allowed. So people do not declare parties for that, even though they may be Democratic or Republican, or in my case, independent. So
okay,
good luck to your
I'm sorry. I want to say I'm actually in Ohio. I just followed you, Miss Angela.
Are you, Dana?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm still an outsider because I'm still a resident of New Jersey. I'm more so here for business, but it's funny that you said that Ohio is Democrat because I look at it as being Republican, which is why it's a swing state. But
yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah, it depends on which area you in too. But the city that I'm in is strongly Democratic.
Okay. All right. Well,
yeah, it's mostly Democrat. I'm independent. You know what I mean? So I don't go to either party. I'm more of an independent, but I just support her because of her policies. And, she's stronger with the Democrats. You'll get more support because right here, it's either we do have a Green Party and we have independent, but they're not going to get, it's either going to be red or blue. You're not going to get that backing and support like you do. Not in my small city, not in other outskirts that I don't know about that well, like Cleveland and stuff like that, but I know mostly Akron. Yeah, but we do have a lot of Trump supporters as well, out here as well. So, it's about 50-50, but the problem is, Dana, that people don't vote in the local elections here. And so that's what we're trying to change. They really don't pay attention to the local. And I keep trying to tell people that's what affects us directly is the local politicians. So
I am going to send you. I am going to send you a direct message once this is over with. Just to keep in touch and everything like that. I want to go to.
Okay, thank you, babe. Appreciate y'all.
Stay right there. You can stay up, Kevin, and then I want to swing to another topic. Kevin, you can unmute.
Hi, Dana. Hi, judgejoebrown.
I've been listening
to the judge speak, and I think that you sound to be you have wisdom, and I'm really just have been having a good time enjoying listening to you. Now, but with that being said, it's hard for me to plug into this whole social activism cause on behalf of the Democrats because I just live in a different world. So, but I'm very I live outside of Rochester, and I see what the families are going through in Rochester because it's a very segregated. There's actually 2 halves to the city. It's just split into 2. and the people inside the inner city don't have anything, and their families are really struggling. So I have a group called Moms Across America, and it's just, I introduce moms to one another that are really kind of woke. And so I'm just wondering, I'm like, because I see here in Rochester in the city, I mean, this whole city practically, the whole city itself is run by women and Black Americans. So to me, I'm not seeing, I'll just wrap up with this. Help me understand like how to reconcile my perspective where I want to empathize, but here where I'm at, the police just aren't relevant in the conversation as much as BLM wants them to be, because it's just the police aren't killing people in the streets. So, but there's all sorts of things that are killing. Like this morning, a guy jumped off the Driving Park Bridge. We don't hear. So I'm doing the opposite over here. I'm trying to take over the GOP and reform the GOP to help out the families. So help me reconcile this, and I'll land it there.
Okay. You want to know, if I'm not mistaken, what's with all of the social activism? Is that what you're saying?
My question is, I personally empathize, like, how do I plug into the social activism in a way that is helpful when I'm in the midst of all this identity politics?
All right. You may not want to because it may not serve your interest. Then again, it might. There is an increasing trend to get people emotively involved in things, and it doesn't have to be social activism. At one time, it was crime in the street. And when you focus, which still is for real now, but in a different way, and when you focus on these emotive issues, you lose track of other important issues. Like if you're worried about getting from your front door to your carport or the other way around, you're less likely to pay attention to an economic situation that's not good for you. Some people are trying to be relevant. Some people are trying to stir up a mess. Some people are trying to profiteer from the bad circumstances, and they push these emotive issues. Some people have an agenda that is closely and inextricably caught up with these issues, and they push them. But what you should keep track of is two things. What does this issue do for me personally? And two, what does the outcome of the issue have to do with the republic and whether we keep a free, somewhat democratic process going, at least in terms of selection of the representatives that we have? My economic circumstances, the economic circumstances of the people in general. So you can be well off, but still suffer if too many other people are not, and their suffering causes you to have a secondary problem. In other words, crime in the street. Now, all of these things require that you pay attention, and it's like being knowledgeable about an athletic uh, event or a sport. You have to pay attention to it. But too many of us pay attention to those athletic events and can tell you the percentages and argue the whys and wherefores of why some team is winning or not, or this quarterback or this forward. And they ought to be paying that same kind of attention to the big game, which is politics. And politics, I know people say they don't want to be involved, but technically politics is just the summation of the things that go on when any two or more people start interacting with each other. You can see politics if you go to the primate area in your zoo. Watch the baboons and chimpanzees. They will have the most closely related political scheme, and you can see what you see on the nightly news right there in front of you if you stay there long enough and watch it. So all I can say is pay attention and understand that to an extent, politics is a science, or at least the study of it is, because there are certain buttons which, if pushed or tripped, will invariably lead to certain other things. So if you are a political scientist and you were a good student and researcher, you will understand this. If not, you just had a political science major and you don't really know what to do with it. But get into it. I'm glad you have taken this interest and you have already given it some thought. But the question is, first off, is this cause worth getting involved in? Does it do something for you personally, or does it actually contribute to the designated beneficiaries in terms of making them a better or more inherent part of the whole process? Sometimes a lot of these movements are not what they purport to be. They have another agenda themselves, and they're surrogates for this other agenda rather than what's commensurate with their title. So I could go on, but I think you.
Did you want to say anything else, Kevin?
He's saying the proof is in the pudding. Through the
there you go. That's a very good way of putting it.
So, Judge, yesterday I was so excited. And this is gonna be very short, but I met a woman named Shirley Hall, and she is she's a mom, a grandma, a great grandma, and I guess even a great grandma. She has 18 grandkids, and so she's getting up there, and she's from the cultural background that I think you and a lot of your friends are from. Sorry, she's a Black American, but it's not that relevant. But if you were there, it's relevant. Sorry for making this awkward, but I thought that was so amazing, because even being a mother is an amazing thing. But having 18 grandbabies that she loves, I'm just like, wow, this woman contributed so much to our world.
Well, I hope she is not like some I had in my courtroom, where they had 19, 20 great grandbabies and they weren't even 55 years old. I had a woman in my courtroom, 1994, and I had more like her, but she's an exemplar. She was 57 years old. She was in front of me on felony drug and theft offenses. The 57-year-old had a 43-year-old daughter who was in front of me. The 43-year-old daughter had a 34-year-old daughter who was born when the 43-year-old was 1 week shy of her 10th birthday. The 34-year-old daughter had a 21-year-old daughter, and the 21-year-old daughter had an 11-year-old daughter who was pregnant with her second child.
Wow. Adam had your hand up. You can unmute, Adam. And again, if you guys want to come up and request, please do so. I'm going to switch to another topic and we'll probably be up here for another 40 minutes. And of course, go and support Judge Joe Brown for Mayor of Memphis, jjb2023.com, and request to come up. Adam, you want to say something? And then I'm going to go into this next topic.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch back on like one of the arrests, the charges that I faced, and I had a withheld adjudication on as well. Was like one of those kind of like what did you call that unit out that was beating up that young man, Tyree?
The Scorpion unit.
Scorpion unit, yeah, that's what it was. That down in Broward County here in Florida, they had like something like that. They were called the Raiders. And they were in unmarked cars, and like basically I was pulling out of a hotel party in a friend's car, and I made a right turn on the road, went straight, and I'm pulling up by 95 on ramp, and all of a sudden I see the lights go off behind me. So I don't want to block the obstruct traffic. So I slowed down to let the officer know that I was stopping, and I pulled over into a shoulder lane right after the off ramp. Guy ran up to my car, pulled my door open, yanked me out, threw me on the trunk, hit me on my back like a few times, said, "You trying to get away from me? You trying to get away from me?" I'm like, I slowed down to let you know that I was stopping. I have the right to like pull into a well-lit area even if I wanted to. You know, I didn't
Mhm.
say that to him, but I'm like, are you crazy? Like, what's wrong with you, man? You know, like this guy came out like a thug, man. And
Right.
the steroided, jacked up thugs with badges sometimes. And that's like, you know, I'm a light-skinned dude. I'm Middle Eastern born. I've got a Slavic background. Like, you know, I'm 3/4 Slavic. Well, I'm a light-skinned dude, you know, like somebody might call me a cracker, you know, you know, like if they, you know, I've been called that in the past once or twice maybe, but you know,
Yeah.
regardless, it's, you know, it's not about skin color. It's about these kind of like thugged out units.
Aggressive, yeah, thugged
Yeah.
out, aggressive police officers. I read
And
on
I
a
think background checks are very important. Like I know that like a friend of mine, his brother had a felony, and he was hired as a CO or
mhm,
corrections officer.
mhm,
And I understand you got to have tough people in jail to take care of the people, keep people in jail in check. But you
right.
know,
Um,
there's got to be some sort of
just
thing.
real quick before I go to the next topic, but yeah, the scorpion union. I did read a little bit about it. It was a former LAPD sheriff who were in charge of those special units, and they said they look for the most aggressive, bullish type attitude people to be on these units. So you know, it's just more so they do look for a specific type to be in these certain units, but a lot of times you do kind of more harm than good in a community, depending on your experience. And these particular 5 officers in Memphis did lack experience. Plus, it's 1 week training. Apparently, they only have 1 week training for that special unit, which is crazy. But I want to go to.
Let me say
Oh,
something about that real quickly.
mhm.
This unit has actually been operating for 3 years. For about 2 of those 3 years, it was formerly known as Blue Crush. So the unit is not just 1 year old, it's 3 years old. And the age ranges for the initial three range from 23, 24 to 31 or 32.
Right.
And there was inadequate supervision. But
Uh,
it is what it is. Now,
to, oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
Now, I was gonna say to your point, because they're like, I saw 5 major news outlets saying, you know, that woman, Cheryl, the police chief of Memphis, she started it, the Scorpion, she started it when she came in, and they did the whole article on that, right? So she was taking the responsibility of starting it, and with articles from over a year ago and saying, oh, how it improved. But you, Judge, said no, she didn't start that. And what a lot of times the police department, what they do, you know,
No,
when
it's
they have
not the police department. It's the
the
mayor.
count, the mayor.
Because
Okay,
Mayor
so
was under a lot of political heat about why he brought her to Memphis after she had been demoted, fired, reinstated by civil service for what turned out to be suppressing an investigation of a child pornography ring that wound up with the person that she was responsible for assisting in escaping state prosecution wound up getting 10 years from the federal system. And then a similar situation down in Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina. So, with this background, why was she brought to Memphis and hired with our particular problems?
right,
So the
and
mayor at the time, wait a minute, the mayor at the time wanted to get brownie points, so he said she started the Scorpion unit. Now, just before she got here, the name changed from Blue Crush to Scorpion, which is an acronym that stands for some letters that reflect the fact that the community asked for the unit to cut down crime. Now, going from that, there are 2 interviews. We've looked at them. They're recorded in the last few weeks. She and the mayor were on the day of the evening that the tapes were going to be released. And at that time, the mayor and the chief were saying, this unit's been operating for 3 years. When I came here, it was already in operation. So you see how politicians will lie to you for brownie point purposes and then quickly try to squirm out of it after it hits the fan.
Right. Exactly. So listen, I'm not being messy when I say this. There was a certain someone, Sir Major is his name. I don't do the subliminals, that was upset at the last Twitter space because you said she did not start it. And he was going off of mainstream media, like a lot of us do. But when you live in Memphis and when you are someone like Judge Joe Brown, who knows what exactly is going on that's not being reported to the media, and which is we only have access to what the media says, you have actual inside information.
Well, it's not even that. It's even more fundamental. Somebody was arguing with me about what went on in the case, blah, 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 blah. This has been some years ago. Quite a few, actually, now that I think of it, but not that long to me. The paper said so and so and so and so. I said, you stupid moron. If you read the thing, you will find out, guess who was the judge? I don't know who it was. Well, I don't care. I said, well, I was the judge. I presided over the whole thing. So who do you think knows better about the case, me or some reporter that showed up 3 or 4 days out of the 26 or 7 that were devoted to the case?
Right. And that's what I'm saying. You cannot sit up here and just believe everything the media put out. And if you don't like what somebody say, then you don't like what somebody say, but you better come with more stronger evidence to try to discredit what somebody said, especially someone of the likes like Judge Joe Brown. And I'm sorry, he has not earned the leisure or the privilege to try and go against anything Judge Joe Brown says. So, and y'all, and whoever knows him, I don't think he's in this space right now. You can report that back because this will be uploaded on the YouTube for him to hear that. All right, so I want to go on to
one other thing I'd like to say too.
Mm-hmm.
It is written, therefore it is. In other words, if in writing, that's supposed to be chiseled in stone truth. That's from when people did not. Well, we didn't have widespread literacy, but right now anybody can get access to anything and self-publish a book. So some of the people that publish books, they're wise, but these days an increasingly large percentage are not. So
Right.
everybody wants to throw out and ask questions like, what's your authority? Where did you get that from? Who wrote that? Well, you might be talking, not necessarily to me, to one of the foremost authorities on it. You might be talking to one of the best trial lawyers you can find. You might be talking to one of the best doctors you can find, but they haven't decided to write a book about it. So you're not going to be able to read anything about what they think. But they can tell you, but yet you'll take an idiot that does not know a damn thing about the subject, and you'll believe him or her because they wanted to hustle up a book.
Right.
Don't judge him, Joe Brown.